Amy Flint, those before guys, we'll have you come up and give us your spiel.
Hi guys, I am your treasurer and public trustee, Amy Flint. I am running in the general election. I'm already on the ballot because I'm not contested. And so I have been the last 3.5 years acting as the treasurer and public trustee. What does the treasurer and public trustee do? The treasurer is your banker for the county, and so we take the deposits from the departments and manage the banking. We also collect the taxes. That's a big thing, right? That takes up probably 3/4 of our year. Also on the side, we do the tax lien sale at the end of the year in November. When the taxes haven't been paid, we take them to sale, and investors pay those taxes to make the county whole so that all of our entities get their money. And then in 3 years, if somebody's holding those taxes and paying those taxes for the 3 years, they can apply for the treasurer's deed after 3 years of holding and paying those taxes. Public trustee is our foreclosures. We represent the county in processing foreclosures for mortgage companies or lenders who take them to an attorney brings them to us, we manage the process. Releases of deeds of trust, the public trustee also manages, and that's if you pay off a mortgage, the deed of trust needs to be released. We review that and send it in for recording. So those things keep us busy all year. What am I looking towards? This next 4 years, if I am elected, which I hope to, I would like to be working on public education, going around to our communities and educating the community about what we do and what we can, or maybe what we can help with the community on questions or gaps that we can fill. Internal training, I'd love to get our whole department cross-trained instead of more people knowing more things and fewer people not knowing those things, getting everybody trained so that if somebody leaves or needs to take time off, the department's covered, because we have 4 people in our department, and so somebody's missing, it's a gap. That's it.
All right, David Kitts, our coroner.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all of your coming out here and blowing your Saturday afternoon. I've been your coroner for the past 16 years, but most importantly, the number one thing that I am is dad, and that's what I always do, and that's always my priority. Until that 20 minutes goes in the goat barn across the parking lot there with my daughter showing her goats. So for about me, I've grown up here in Park County. I've been here 5 generations. I'm big and steeped in the community. I'm the scoutmaster for the only troop in the county, which is based in Bailey. And we did a 15-mile backpacker, which I got off of this morning. So I may be walking a little funny right now. But basically, I believe in the community. I believe in having everything done right here. And just because we're little, just because we're small, doesn't mean we can't do things excellent. And so when I became coroner, I set a goal of becoming an accredited coroner's office. And anyone can tell you they're the best there are. Every person up here, everybody in the country can tell you I'm the best. But how were they judged? Who gave them the score? So we went out for the coroner's office starting in 2015. It took us like 4 years after I got elected the first time to actually get to that point where we could be judged, and got fully accredited and passed a massive accreditation. We've passed that 3 times since this last summer. So we were the smallest fully accredited coroner's office in the world for 10 years. A county in Wyoming just a little bit smaller than us just got their accreditation, so we were thrilled to pass that mantle off to somebody. We are still fully accredited, but the but someone smaller than us has done it too, so that's the great thing. We want to see that. So a lot of people go, well, what does the coroner do? They don't really want to talk to us, or they're like, I hope I never meet you professionally. I've heard everything you can possibly imagine. So what I always tell people is simply, we are the death investigators, and we are in charge of determining the cause and manner of death. We are in charge of determining the identification of the individual, notifying next of kin, and all the follow-up work around that goes with it, which is a lot. And so to be a death investigator in the state of Colorado, you have to be at least certified at the state level, which if you've ever heard me speak before, you've heard me say is a joke. So that level we dispense with. And then there's a national level of certification. There's two levels. There's the national registration certification level through the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigation. To work for me in Park County, that's the level you have to achieve. It is a 18-month process. It's over 57 different categories of 360 criteria that you have to be proficient in. Then you have to sit for the test and be able to do all that. So you have to have that ability in your background. So you have to be at that level to work for me in Park County. You have 18 months after you're hired to make it there. And then there's board certification, which is a fellow of the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigation. That's what I am. That takes extra years in order to qualify and test for that. So just a little bit about our office. That's where we are qualified, fully accredited. We love serving the community, and we have our care team, which, since I probably won't ask any more questions, I'll take another second from you.
Sure, go ahead.
Our care team is 18 of the best volunteers in this county you will ever come across. I'll put them up against anybody. Those volunteers come out in the moment. When you have lost a loved one, they are there at that moment to comfort you, to be with you, to sit in silence with you, whatever that happens to be, because at that moment, you're in crisis. And you need someone who can deal with that. And our 18 volunteers on the care team, that's what they specialize in. So we're very proud of that department too. So, and we're open door book. Anytime you want to call and ask questions, look at our website. Anything you want to know, call and reach out. We'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, we are going to hear from our candidates up here. We're just going to go down the row. So Steve, we'll let you start first on your introduction.
All right, well, hello everyone. Thank you for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon to come out here. I'm Steve Spodiak, your candidate for Park County Sheriff. A few things about me. First of all, I'm a husband and a father. I have two sons. They're 17 and 14 years old. They're outstanding young men. I'm a coach. I coach basketball over in Platte Canyon School District. I've coached baseball over there with Little League as well and been involved with Platte Canyon Little League. I'm a Colorado native. And so I've been in and around Park County for most of my life. I graduated from Platte Canyon High School over in Bailey. I'm also a graduate of Adams State University down in the San Luis Valley. I have a bachelor's degree in history and a bachelor's degree in sociology from there with an emphasis in criminology. In addition to that, I have a master's certificate from the University of Virginia in criminal justice. And I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy, along with lots of other law enforcement trainings and leadership trainings. So currently, I'm your undersheriff, and I've had that role for the last 7.5 years. And through that, I've overseen all divisions within the sheriff's office. And 22 years of law enforcement experience total. 14 of those years have been here in Park County. I started as a detention deputy with the Park County Sheriff's Office. I've been a patrol deputy. I've been a school resource officer. I've been a detective. And now I'm your undersheriff, where I oversee our patrol division, our detentions division, our animal control division, our support services division, victim services, and investigations. Those are the divisions that make up the Park County Sheriff's Office today. I have a diverse law enforcement background. In addition to some of the things that I mentioned there, I've also been a canine handler. I was a railroad police officer, a special agent, a senior special agent with the railroad police. And I want you to know that I'm ready to be your sheriff today. I'm ready to be your sheriff tomorrow, and I'm ready to be your sheriff starting in January of 2027. So again, thank you for coming out today, for listening to what we have to say. I'm looking forward to answering the questions that you may have, and also looking forward for your support in the primary and then going forward to the general election in November. Thank you.
My name is Ahmed Sosek, and I'm running for your next Park County Sheriff. A little bit about myself. for the surprise, I do live in Park County. I've been hearing that I don't live in Park County. I have raised my 3 boys here. They all graduated South Park High School. I can tell you that in the last 24 years of law enforcement, I worked myself through almost every position in law enforcement. I was a field training officer, patrol officer, field training officer. I was a dare officer. We didn't have a high school in our jurisdiction, so I worked with 5th grade kids. And currently I'm a sergeant in the Summit County Sheriff's Office. In between, I was chief of police in Blue River, and I know everybody here is familiar with Blue River, a small jurisdiction. It was a challenge to build a department from the ground up. It was a good task because I did not have all the division that current undersheriff says. I had to be chief, administrator, compliance officer, CJIS compliance officer, you name it. Which is good for somebody in my position because it gives you aspect of every point of the law enforcement. And that has prepared me. So my campaign and why I want to be sheriff here is focused on 3 things. The first and foremost is recruitment and retention. So I want to keep the deputies here. I want to work on their salaries. Happy workers coming to work, they're going to stay here. It's not a revolving door, they're not going to be leaving. The second one is fiscal responsibility, looking at the budget, looking at responsible spending, and looking on the savings, with emphasis on the pay for our deputies. And the third one's going to be mental health. Working for the Summit County Sheriff's Office, which is really busy office. We handle about 28,000 calls a year. And being a supervisor on the most busy shift there, I work power shift, is challenging sometimes. I can tell you what I like about my current administration, it's their leadership. This year, our office got cut by $7 million in the budget. And I can tell you folks that even being cut $7 million, we still provide the same service to our community. We are 24/7. It means more work for us, but that's what we signed up for. Folks, I think Park County deserves the same. Enough of the same stuff, 7.5 years, we haven't seen any improvement. My job is to make that improvement. I would like your vote in the primary, June 30th. Again, I'm Ed Susick, running for your Park County Sheriff. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming and spending your Saturday with us. I'm running for the county assessor, and I am not a public speaker. This pushes me out of my comfort zone. I'm a math and data person. I have a degree in accounting that kind of says a lot about what I am comfortable with, and this is not it. But I'm going to do the best I can. The reason I want to run is, well, there's several reasons. One is I want the assessor's office to be a really happy, fun place to come to work. I want them to stay. Currently we have a 30% turnover per year, and that to me is unacceptable. And they're not just leaving because of money, they're leaving because it's not as enjoyable to work there. So that's one of the main reasons I want to be there. I want to also serve you guys. I want you to be able to come in, have a friendly face that can explain things to you, and you can understand why everything's been assessed the way it is, and that you get answers. If I'm not there, that you get answers from the staff that I have in there, that everybody knows how to answer those questions for you. And thirdly, I want to make sure all the staff gets trained. According to the Colorado Board of Real Estate Appraisers, everybody that comes into that job is supposed to be trained to be at least a minimum of an ad valorem appraiser in 2 years. And currently we have, from what I understand, just 2 people. And so everybody needs to get trained. They need to follow those rules. We need to stop hemorrhaging money by hiring contractors. We're in compliance because we hire appraisers, and we spend a lot of money for those appraisers that aren't on our staff. So that's the third reason that I want to be in that office. So I would really like to get your vote in the primary, and then again in November as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wally Weld, and I'm running for commissioner in District 3. I've owned property up here for about 29 years now. Been a permanent resident a little over 3, and want to make this my final spot. You can plant me in the ground anywhere you want up in Park County. Been coming up here for about 60 years since I was a Boy Scout. My background for the job, I worked for Union Pacific Railroad's Mining Corporation for about 25 years, and this is a right to mine county. I'm very familiar with what's going on around the county, with the Wild Horse coming in. I thought it was great that they moved it. I thought there would be some issues prior to, so I'm very proud of being able to make decisions like that for the county. For the last 24, 25 years, I've been a real estate broker, residential, land, a ranch or two here and there. So I know the real estate business, the market, and how it applies to us in this county. I want to talk to you about 3 things real quick, and that defines me as a conservative. If you want to say Republican, that's fine, but I'm a conservative. I believe in limited government. We've got plenty of government going on, plenty of laws. I think if we, enact the laws that we have, use the government scenarios we have, very few times do you need to add another government scenario to what we're doing right now. And second is personal responsibility. And that's something everybody and I have talked about to you tonight, and that's why you're here. This is the ultimate in personal responsibility. You guys are taking your Saturday to come in and see who we are, how we operate, and make the best decision that you can. And thirdly, I'm not a big tax and spend guy. The life that you give for the money you make is yours. And I believe it belongs to you. It certainly doesn't belong to me, doesn't belong to the conservative Republican Party, and it darn sure doesn't belong to the other group who thinks they can spend it better than we can. That's not who I am. My door is wide open. I'll answer every phone call, every email, every text. I'll let you know why my decisions were made after I make them. You got to remember there's a bunch of things going on that you guys may not know, and why we make that decision. It encompasses a lot of things, but I'll be more than happy to share my ideas with you and why I make decisions that I do. I'm Wally Weld, and I'd love your vote for commissioner. Thank you very much for being here.
All right, we are going to start with the sheriff candidates. So anyone who would like to ask a question, please stand, and we're going to alternate. So first question you can ask Ahmed, and then we'll have him answer, and then Steve, and then they'll each have 30 seconds to comment if they would like to, and then next question up will alternate. So one candidate doesn't always have to go first. So raise your hand if you have a question you would like to ask. All right.
This question is for Steve. You said you've been here 14 years as either a deputy, a corporal, and now under sheriff. Why would we want to keep going in the same direction we've been going, knowing that nothing's changed? What is your goals for the next 4 years, 8 years if you should be elected? What are you going to change, and how are you going to change it?
Okay. Well, I thought she said we were asking Ahmed the first question, Gary, but I'll take that one.
I can answer it first.
So yes, I've been here 14 years. So I started here as a detention deputy, like I said in my open, patrol deputy, SRO, worked SWAT team leader. You guys have heard what I have to say. So the thing that I don't like about your question, Gary, is that you seem to have an impression that things need to change. Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you on that part of your question. Things do need to change. Everything needs to constantly change and evolve, or it dies. We have an organization here. We have a sheriff's office that is made up of people. It has to evolve over time, and it has to change, or just like any other organism, it's going to die. So I agree with that part, and and there will be changes. I hear that, you know, people think that if I'm elected sheriff, everything is going to stay the same. Well, first of all, I'm not Tom McGraw. I'm Steve Spodyak, okay? And I've never been the sheriff here. Yes, I'm currently the undersheriff, and my job as the undersheriff is take the current sheriff's ideas and execute them. That's what I've been tasked with doing for the last 7.5 years. And I think I've done a pretty good job doing that. You were here in 2018. So you remember, even though you've never been a part of this organization, you remember the state that the sheriff's office was in at that time. We were at about 50% staffing, and the morale was really awful. But now we've gone through ebbs and flows over the last 7.5 years. We got to the point where we were at 96% staffing at one point. Right now we're sitting at about 85% staffing. To me, that's a huge increase over the 50% staffing that we had when we came here. I also hear things from people that say the morale within the sheriff's office is bad right now and it needs to change. I'm not sure where that's coming from because it's incorrect.
Do we need change? And law enforcement changes are consistent. So that's how you keep organization healthy. What do we need change with? Let's start with the pay. I don't know what the turnover rate is in the sheriff's office, but it's not great. We should be keeping those deputies here. In addition to that, how many calls for service do we get here? There is nothing on a CBI reporting webpage how many uniform crime reporting or how many crimes are reported from this Park County. So it's kind of hard to decipher anything going with the sheriff's office. I'm hearing people saying deputies are not responding to calls. Response is usually over the phone. Well, that needs to change. When we deal with people, when they dial 911, that's not a good time in their life. They're calling us because they need something. And we should show courtesy to show up, take a report, and determine, at least complete that field interview, which means we can determine where that investigation is going to go after our field interview. That's the major change, because deputies are here for the community. They don't work for me. I'm just going to be managing that office. This is your office. This is not my office. And those deputies need to know, just like I need to know, and everybody else working for the government, that we work for you people. That's why I stand on it. Changes are hard. People hate changes. And if you're in law enforcement officers hate changes. They're used to certain things. Well, cultural change starts at the top of the agency. This is who makes changes, and it's filtered down to the line deputies. So those are the changes that I assume you're talking about, Gary. Those are the changes that we need to see. Like I said, folks, we do need change. We can't say for 7.5 years that we're running something and it's been good. People are still mad. People don't have a trust in this sheriff's office. So we want to change that from day one. Thank you.
All right, 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. So I didn't get a chance to address the goals. Okay, retention and recruiting, yes, also a goal of mine. I would like to focus on hiring people who already live here because they know how to live here. They know the challenges. They understand how expensive it is to live here. I would like to hire a grant manager, and I would like to focus on increasing the amount of funding that the sheriff's office has to operate under. Going back to the morale issue and responding to calls, what Amit said about responding to calls, I fear that you're only getting input from people that are dissatisfied. And I know that that is a small majority, not the majority.
Well, I'm just going to piggyback. Whether they're dissatisfied, satisfied, we need to hear both sides. That's what the law enforcement does. In addition to this, we still don't have a 24/7 coverage. That hasn't been addressed. So it's a big county. Everybody heard my plan before. How am I supposed to fix that? And I will fix it. I have a solution for it. I'm not going to dwell in the past and say, hey, this is what you guys did wrong. That's in the past. What I'm going to focus, it's a present and future, and that's how we're going to fix it. First and foremost, we will restore public trust. Thank you.
All right, another question for sheriff candidates?
My question.
Okay,
So you just mentioned, Steve, in your statements that you were planning on hiring the grant writer. Where are those funds going to come from? From where are you going to get that money from? How are you going to allocate that money? And what kind of experience do you personally have with writing grants so that we as the taxpayers don't have to worry about where that funding is going to come from?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think that's a good question, and I don't have a lot of grant writing experience, nor do I have a lot of grant managing experience, which is the reason why I want to hire a full-time person to do that. Not just to write the grants, that's great, okay, so then we get the grants, but a lot of the work with grants, from what I understand, is how you manage them. And you're right, we don't want the county to have to pick up the tab for something because we've done it incorrectly or we haven't been in compliance with what the grant requires. So, again, that's why I want to hire a full-time grant writer. It's a need that we've identified, it's something that we've brought forward previously, and it's not something that we have been able to accomplish. As far as how I plan on paying for it, working on the 2027 grant cycle this year, I plan on building that into the salaries and wages for the sheriff's office. So regardless of who the sheriff is coming in, that will be something that they would have the ability to take care of and work with. Is there any part of your question that I missed?
okay.
Okay.
So I've written grants before, so that wouldn't be a problem. There's some of my cops here that used to work for me. They know that I will do everything to take care of my people. Folks, I've been talking about a post-grant right now that's in the cycle. It's police officer standard training, $3.5 million to include the training facility, recruitment retention. We are not taking advantage of that. Nice thing about grant writing, whether you're going to state or federal government, guess what you can do? If you get hung up on something, you can pick up the phone and there will be a person on the other side that can help you go through that process. In addition to that, there's a Prop 130, Proposition 130, that's coming alive in August of this year. Proposition 130 was approved by all of you guys a couple of years ago, and is specifically designed for recruitment and retention, okay? We have a great opportunity here. We have detentions deputies. They are usually not post-certified. We can certify every person working for that sheriff's office. Whether they decide to go on patrol or not, that's their choice. However, it will give them professional standards, it will give them goals, and we can always dip into that pool and say, hey, this is my recruitment right here. Those people are already here. They're already county employees, so we are reducing our hiring process because they're already hired by the county. So they have the polygraph, psych, physical, whatever requirements are to hire a new deputy. In addition to this, training is very important. We need to take advantage of training. Our deputies need to be trained. I can tell you from a personal experience, I'm here because of training, because my agency invested in me. And if they're willing to invest in you, it means you're valuable. So that's a part of the retention program too. Thank you.
All right, 30 seconds, Steve?
Well, like I said, I plan on hiring a grant writer because this organization is big enough that the sheriff shouldn't be the one writing grants. It's a misconception, I think, along with a lot of other things of what the Park County Sheriff's Office is. This is a medium-sized law enforcement organization. There's 62 allocated positions for the Sheriff's Office right now. It's bigger than it sounds. And yes, there will be some Proposition 130 money coming out. How long is that $350 million going to last statewide, going to every single law enforcement agency? Probably not real long, so that's not going to be sustainable, but it is something we could use.
I I can tell you, Summit County Sheriff's Office, when they got a new sheriff, they didn't have a grant writer. Guess who wrote grants? You have your command staff. I'm not telling you the sheriff should write that, but your command definitely should be, command staff should be involved in it and start writing grants. Down the road, their grants equal about $3.5 million every year, which is a good chunk of money to bridge that gap and shortfall in your budget. So after 5 years, we were able to get that grant writer costs money. So in the meantime, our command staff, our sergeants, everybody was pitching in and everybody was writing those grants. So hiring somebody, I think it's impossible right now. Thank you.
All right, do we have another question? Maybe for Ahmet to go first.
No, I think I want to ask Steve first.
Okay.
You know, here recently we had a deputy at the county building. I was talking to, I think it was a female. She drove her county vehicle to Colorado Springs, could only go to the middle of the city, couldn't continue on because she had a limit as far as she could drive. So I understand we have a lot of deputies, employees driving into other counties and parking their vehicle, taking them home. And we're talking probably $80,000, $90,000 Tahoes, plus when they're equipped with all the equipment. I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure we're talking in excess of $100,000 vehicles. Putting excessive amounts of miles on them every year. Has there ever been any studies how feasible this is to do these with these county vehicles? And is there some way of cutting the budget down, maybe with a less expensive vehicle than a Tahoe, which, you know, we've had Tahoes for the last, and Yukons for the last decades, basically. They're not a reliable vehicle as far as I'm concerned. They're pretty inferior anymore. So how do you feel about the driving and the miles that are put on and the cost that it is on these vehicles? You know, and how many miles a year are put on them, and how much do they appreciate a year? Is it really feasible?
I think he's got the.
Okay, I'll try to unpack all of that the best I can. I'm not a big fan of the take-home vehicles that leave the county. But again, like I told you in answering an earlier question, I'm not the ultimate decision maker. I'm the one that has to figure out how to make that happen in my current role. And that's something that I look forward to in the future with your support, being the sheriff, is being able to, you know, be the one with the ideas, being the one to put things out there, to change, to work with our staff to figure out. Now, as far as the Tahoes, we don't pay the same price that you do when you go and buy a Tahoe, because we buy them under government rate. And there's different programs going on within the county right now. And the sheriff's office doesn't have a whole lot of control over fleet because the county has a fleet department. So we have to work with them. By the time a brand new Tahoe is upfitted for us, purchase price with the interest over 4 years, if that's the route we're going, not a straight lease program, we're probably looking at about $90,000 total. Okay, so not quite as expensive as what you're thinking. We get a better deal on them. I think last year the government rate on those was about $58 for the vehicle itself. Yeah, that's a big chunk of money, and it's a big expense. This is a big county though. These deputies out there, they drive a lot, and some of them do drive their vehicles outside of the county, especially our patrol deputies. Part of the reason for that is it's a benefit for them. Right? I mean, we don't pay that well. You all probably know that, and that's something that we have worked on every single year to try and get their pay up. Some years we've had a little bit of success, some years we haven't. That's something that I'm going to continue to work on going forward. But that is a perk, and unfortunately that's the only way that I can put it. It's something that makes a big enough difference in some of these deputies' lives that it keeps them here.
But the nice thing would be if we purchased the vehicle. The last 4 Tahoes are being leased. That's a 4-year lease, okay? And the price per Tahoe was, when I checked your records, about $106,000 to put them on the road. So you're in a good ballpark right there. How are we gonna fix that? 4-year lease, I'm hearing this from current administration. Well, after 4 years, we get those vehicles for $1. With 2,200 square miles, deputies taking those vehicles home, I can tell you, 4 years is a long time. I can tell you that after 2 years, those vehicles are going to be close to 200,000. So your cost of maintenance, upkeep, and everything else that goes hand in hand with it is going to be skyrocketing. Those vehicles need repairs. So building and purchasing lower price vehicle like a Ford or Dodge or whatever, they all come in the police packages, okay? It would save us about, my prediction, $30,000 per vehicle. We can build a fleet that's healthy, and we can cycle those vehicles every 3 years, sell them on the auction, getting some money back, not get locked up in the lease for 4 years. And every lease, folks, how many of you ever lease cars? Every lease comes with an interest rate. And the Bed County is paying the interest rate on those leases as well. So my plan, creation of 3 districts, gonna have 7 vehicles stationed in those districts, 48-hour shifts, which means deputies are gonna be driving to their districts. They're gonna work for 48 hours. They're gonna be on the shift for 48 hours. They're not gonna work all the 48 hours. This is a firefighter schedule or a Swiss Mountain police schedule. We're gonna save gas, mileage, and wear and tear on those vehicles. They're gonna be utilized for one thing, for what you taxpayers are paying, and that's for them to respond to calls. Thank you.
All right, so again, this is a fleet decision, not a sheriff's office decision. So it just shows me more lack of understanding of how things here are actually done and the things that you anticipate you might be able to do going forward. We don't have vehicles with over 200,000 miles on them. All of the vehicles that are on the road for everyday use right now are under 100,000 miles. And the last 4 vehicles that are being purchased or were purchased for this year by the sheriff's office are a lease purchase. It's a 4-year lease, buy them for $1 at the end, and it's not a lease program.
I'm kind of confused. Is it lease or not a lease?
It's a lease purchase.
Okay, so it's a lease purchase. I think you're wrong there, because during one of our first debate, I asked you where our lodging tax is going, money going from the lodging tax. Why are we not putting this in general funds, and why are we not increasing salaries for our deputies? You said you had an unexpected cost, and that was the 4 vehicles. That was the 4 vehicles because county said we don't have money for it. So that's not only decision of our fleet, that was the current administration decision as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I go to Daenerys auctions every year.
No, we're not having dialogue. I'm sorry, Al.
As far
No
as
dialogue.
100,000 miles.
No dialogue, please. Okay, and then I would like to ask a question. Would either of you guys be opposed to, the county has been strenuously asked for Tahoes. Would either of you guys be willing to go with a little bit less costly vehicle for the future? And we'll just give you 30 seconds.
Absolutely. There's vehicles, they're built for this, they're police packages, they're Ford Interceptors, they're Ford F-150s, there's Dodge Durangos. Those vehicle cost is less than any Tahoe there is. So they're police packages, they're not SSV, special whatever vehicle that we use in here. When people say they're not safe, they are safe. I can tell you we utilize our Interceptors, Ford Interceptors in Summit County. They come with a 75 miles an hour rear crash rating. We got more snow, and deputies are still able to get to the location they need to go. Thank you.
No, to answer your question, Amy, I'm not opposed to that, and actually I think the current overall plan with fleet to get everything moved over to one make and model, one make, is a great idea. We purchased a Ford Interceptor here a few years back, and we ended up selling it to the town of Fairplay because it did not work for the needs here in Park County. How much of this county is public lands? 85% of it maybe? We patrol all of that, and these car police vehicles don't hold up here in Park County and on our roads.
All right, another question for sheriff's candidates.
So many citizens understand that mistakes can happen. However, when concerns are repeatedly raised regarding inaccurate reports, omitted facts, report manipulation, failures to document incidences, inconsistent enforcement, missed victim follow-up, and supervisory influence, bias, lack of transparency, and a culture where citizens feel discouraged from questioning government conduct, should voters view those concerns as isolated mistakes or as evidence of a systemic leadership failure? If elected sheriff, what specific measures would you implement to ensure reports are accurate and complete, investigations are based solely on facts and evidence, complaints received in independent review, citizens can raise concerns without fear of retaliation from command staff and held accountable for reoccurring failures within the department? Additionally, how would the public evaluate leaders who were already in these positions of authority while these concerns were occurring?
Okay, Ahmet, we'll let you go first.
Sorry, it was so loaded, everybody.
Yeah.
Trying to get it all in
They
one.
might miss a couple of those.
I can
points,
reread it
but,
if I need to, guys. My apologies.
Very
It was
good.
so
Let
loaded.
me kind of summarize this.
Please.
What am I going to do as your sheriff? I can tell you that I will hold myself and every member of that office to the highest ethical, moral, and professional standards. How are we going to get there? Like I mentioned before, we're going to have deputies respond. They're not going to take reports over the phone. I understand if you have a fender bender on a private property, that's what usually what sheriff does. Public property is state patrol when it comes to the motor vehicle accidents. You can do that over the phone. Most people are not going to stick around. They're going to drive down to Denver. There's exceptions to everything. When we talk about a prosecution, you know, our goal is to protect our victims. That's what we do as law enforcement officers. That is our main goal, protection of innocent. So, if we don't have a good report, or a report is not submitted in a timely manner, I can tell you can address that in a policy and procedures. So guess what? Once you acknowledge policy and procedure, you're held to different standards. So you need to have an approval process. And last I checked, conviction rate in this county is about 12%. It gives me a good idea that the reports submitted to our district attorney's office are lacking a lot. Whether it's investigation, whether it's evidence, whether it's, you know, everybody familiar with the Senate Bill 217? We carry now a body-worn camera. Where I work, we even have a dash camera. So when people are questioning our reason for the stop, I can play that immediately. Transparency is the most important thing that we have in law enforcement. Through transparency, it comes to one point. It's a trust between community and us. If I don't have a community support, then I'm failing as a leader for that organization. So you need to have a reviewing report, and not only on one level. They are going through the sergeants, higher up, before they go to records and being submitted to the DA's office. Thank you.
There was a lot there.
There was. I apologize for that.
That's okay. You don't need to apologize, but I think the root of what you're getting at here is accountability.
Yes.
The whole umbrella here is accountability. And so yesterday we were actually in the same room and we were talking to a different group of people. And one of the things that I tried to make a point of is that in our profession, we have a hard time addressing things that we don't know about. And so in relation to the conversation yesterday, this had to do with speeders and reckless driving, and I asked the person, you know, have you called us about this? And you know, they said no. And I know that that's not exactly your case here, but that's where I would like to start with this conversation is, okay, we need your guys' help. We're a part of this system. We're a part of the government, but we can't do it without support from the community. We can't do it without having people come and report things to us. We can't do it if we don't know what's going on. But going back to the root of your question with accountability, I think accountability has to start at the top of the organization. And it has to come from, number one, leading by example. And number two, it has to come from integrity. Number three, it has to come with pride. Those are three things that I will focus on as your sheriff. Number one, leading by example. Showing and doing the right thing every day, every time, not only when I'm at work, not only as a sheriff, but in my personal life as well. Things as small as having a front license plate on your vehicle. Those are big things. People notice that stuff. And you're under a microscope all the time. So, those are some of the changes that I recognize need to be made within this office and things that I want to address when elected.
Like I mentioned before, different level of control. Dual control, it would solve the problems. If we're gonna change this when the current undersheriff is elected as a sheriff, why we haven't changed that already? That's the problem. If we see the problem, we need to address the problem. We need to hold people accountable. I love cops. I'm a cop. I can tell you that. I love my cops. But guess what? Once you make that mistake, you will be held accountable for it. Everything has consequences. Thank you.
Well, just to kind of address that part of it, there's a balance here between, say, what the community wants and what leadership within government is able to provide. And you are not going to have people that want to work for you if you don't have your back. And there's some of you that are going to say, oh, he's a cop's cop, right? The cops are always right. The cops never can do anything wrong. And that's absolutely not true. That's not who I am, and that's not what I stand for. However, if you're always out to get your people, they're not going to want to come to work every day, and you can't do this alone.
All right, who else? We're going to keep on going with quick. Anyone else other than the hands up? Let's see. We have a gentleman back in the corner.
Hi.
And we're trying to make our questions brief and concise.
Yes, I will be brief. So I didn't want this to be my question, but Steve, you brought up grant report writer, hiring that position. I personally have been a police officer for 5 years, and our call volume is equal. We're a much smaller agency, but our call volume might be more than yours. And I have supervisors that are taking calls, responding to calls, running DUIs, running the road, and writing grants. The idea that you're going to hire someone to write grants, why do you think that's necessary? It seems absurd to me.
Well, I think it's necessary to have people who are specialized in what they do in their field. And I don't know that you need to take a certified peace officer who has been trained to enforce the law, interpret the law, and go out and enforce the law, and then give them all of these other things to do as well. I don't know a lot of cops, especially younger cops, which is a lot of what our force is made up of right now, that's what they signed up for, right? They signed up, you know this, they signed up to run and gun, right? They signed up to go catch bad guys and put them in jail. That's what they signed up for. Now, as you age in this profession, that certainly changes. And depending on how long it takes you to make rank, that could be different within your organization. But if you have a 3 to 5 year cop who's a supervisor, I don't know, number one, that they're going to be effective, but number two, that they're going to want to come to work every day when they don't get to do what they signed up to do. So back to the root of your question, I think it's important to have somebody that's what they do. And then, of course, when we have somebody that's proficient in that, we can look at somebody as a backup so that there's not these voids when that person needs time off or when they get sick or if they leave the agency, have some cross-training. But I really think it's important to have people who specialize in these areas that are super important. Money has been a conversation in Park County for as long as I can remember. And there is a lot of money out there. The state has money this year. then they don't. Then the feds have money, and it ebbs and flows. And if you have somebody that can constantly have their finger on the pulse of that and not have to worry about, I'm sitting here and I'm typing my report from my arrest, oh, now I gotta go out and handle a call for service because it's an emergency, and then I have to come back and try and work on this grant that I've been tasked with from the brass. I personally don't think that that's the effective way to manage this type of situation.
Thank you for that questions. And just kind of reinforce my earlier statement. Efficiency. Everybody pitches in. There is no difference between sergeant who is running the road, doing a leaf or whatever grants we have going on. It's efficiency. And I see it as a career advancement. You're exposing your people to something different. You're encouraging professional development for all your officers. So that's the one thing about the grants writing. You said you're a mid-sized agency with 62 slotted spots. You're not a big agency, so you have to be jack of all trades. You're not going to convince Board of County Commissioner or taxpayers to just give you a position. If you are writing grants, you should be utilizing other departments within the county. We do have a finance department. We have a person that can manage those grants, submit the payments or receive the payments from the grants. Our responsibility is to write them and keep a track of how much money we spend. It's pretty simple math. So, utilizing people that you have, your command staff, your supervisory staff, it would just benefit you and will benefit them as a professional development, and it will benefit our community because we are not asking for the tax increase. Folks, I am sick for paying taxes, I can tell you that. And I'm not, whether it comes on a ballot or not, I'm not supporting any taxes to increase our spending to government. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, excuse me, we got 30 seconds, sorry. I got ahead of us.
No, that's fine. And yeah, we in an agency our size, it's not different from a very small agency where a lot of people are a jack of all trades. But wouldn't you rather not be a master of none? And if you have the opportunity to be a master of something, that's what I think people go for. And professional development, of course, everybody wants that. But if you have someone who doesn't want to be a grant writer, for example, and you force that upon them because it's in the best interest of the agency, yeah, sometimes we have to do stuff like that. But they're not going to be as good as they could be if it's something they wanted to do.
I never forced anybody to write grants. I put the question out, and usually they get volunteers. That's how it works. If they don't want to write grants, that's up to them. If they don't want to write grants, you have your command staff. Why they are not doing that? Running the operations in a mid-sized agency is not that hard. Operations is the easiest job that can happen in any organization. What it comes to, it's a police administration. You know how much time we spend in the police administration. That's the hardest job. Thank you.
All right, now I think you have a question.
I do have a question. This is for Ahmed. So you hang your hat on I feel like you're hanging your hat on your running mate, Gary Rhodes, who's sitting back there. You probably know where my question's coming from, but the guy was fired for integrity issues 16 years ago. And I think a sheriff and the undersheriff is a pretty important job in a county. So if he's fired for integrity issues and hasn't been in law enforcement for 16 years in a capacity that a sheriff or an undersheriff or detective or patrol guy should be, how are we supposed to trust you in your judgment of picking him, or two, him being the undersheriff who's got a lot of power, if you will, in the county? Because I personally don't.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, to kind of answer your question, you're talking about firing somebody. It's nothing different than what's going with the undersheriff and the sheriff's office right now. I will not comment on a civil litigation. Okay? I looked at his Firing people, did you call it firing? They're not firing. He resigned. He was offered his position. I personally took a look at it. So, in my opinion, that's not firing. He resigned, he was offered the job, he didn't want to come back. So, with me having conversation with Gary and utilizing his experience, he worked for the State Patrol. Their bread and butter is traffic. So, do we have a traffic issue in Park County? Are people dying on our roads? Yeah, they are. Last 4th of July, how many did we lose? 3 or 4 in the 4th of July weekend? So, having somebody that has a knowledge of the traffic, traditionally sheriff's offices, they're more criminal. State Patrol does most of our accidents. If they come across criminal issues, guess who they call? They call the sheriff's office to take the criminal issue, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's assault or whatever. So having somebody in my corner who has a knowledge how the traffic operates, who was in charge of reducing traffic accident on 285 by 85%, I think it's a great benefit for this community. It's a great benefit to my administration. And what I like about it, it's not undersheriff, it's the entire team that I'm gonna train and bring here. Because I don't want a yes man. I want people who are gonna tell me as a sheriff, listen, you need to sit down and you need to listen to what we have to say. Listening to Steve, I don't think that's happening right now in the current administration, because he said sheriff makes those decisions. Our job is to have undersheriff who's going to say you're doing something wrong, and that's why I've chosen him.
The only part of that I really want to address is you have no idea the conversations that Tom and I have. There might be a person in this room that does. We are not the same, and it's not a bad thing. We are very different. We have very different beliefs about the law and conservative values. We go at it all the time, and that's what makes us a good duo, because we are very different. And even though I don't have the ultimate say, I know my voice is heard, and I might not get my way, but he always listens to me. And that is super important, and that's something that you have to have. And you need different personalities in these roles. Sheriff and undersheriff are very different. And you know what? They're going to be different in the next administration too, just like they're different in different counties. And I've said before, you know, the undersheriff in Jefferson County is not the same as the undersheriff in Los Animas County. You know, they're very different. Every single organization runs their sheriff's office a different way. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need a specific skill set as an undersheriff. So I think where this comes in and pertains to me with this question is I haven't answered that question, and I'm not going to. We're not at the point where that question needs to be answered. Right now, I'm a candidate for sheriff. I'm not even the Republican candidate for sheriff yet. At the end of June, I plan on being the Republican candidate for sheriff. And does that mean that at that time I'm going to announce who my undersheriff is? I don't know for sure. I can't see what things look like right then. But the most important thing about selecting an undersheriff is they have to be a fit for the organization, because they are so integral to the day-to-day operations. And so had I come out in October or November and said, this guy's going to be my undersheriff, well, maybe that doesn't fit the organization in a year down the road.
The only reason I brought it up, it's your statement that says he's the sheriff. So my assumption was, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, my assumption is you said he's the sheriff, he makes that ultimate decision. The reason I've chosen my undersheriff, or at least when I get elected, he will be appointed. And the reason I'm doing this, it gives me enough time to put the plan into place. Because we're going to be facing challenges and obstacles from day one. So January, I better have that plan ready to go. Thank you.
Steve, you want 30 seconds?
Oh, do I get another? Sure. I'll take the opportunity.
I'm trying to keep track, I think I'm good.
So on that note, one of my slogans from the beginning has been "Ready Day One," and I hear that thrown out from I guess other people in this room as well. And the fact of the matter is, unequivocally, I am the only person in this race who is ready day one. I'm the only person who knows how to put gas in the car day one. I mean, things as simple as that. So if you want to come out and say that you're ready day one, you're ready to take the reins, you're going to come in and make all these changes, I don't know that you are.
Okay, we're gonna let them take a little break, and unfortunately, Wally's opponent is not here, but Wally is here as a commissioner candidate, so can ask him a question, let him have a little chance to let you guys get to know him a little better. So anyone have a question for commissioner candidate? Mr. Harvey?
Yes, we're a mining community, that's our history and what have you, and how can you proliferate that historic context that we have and bring tourists to our Park County for mining issues?
Okay, my job is not to bring tourists to this county. My job is to finance the budget, work the budget, and bring in the people that can do that, and have me segregate the money to these places. Personally, I'm not gonna really be doing anything to make money for the county. Is that what you're asking me, or am I misinterpreting it? I think what we do, I think what,
Madam President, can I follow up?
Okay, here, let me pause this time. Okay, maybe ask for clarification, is that what you're doing? Okay.
What it amounts to is we have a resource here, and we need to go after that resource so that we can have a populace, a viable populace in this country, or in this territory, Park County. And I'll just come up with it. I have a mine. I have 500 people a year coming to that mine, and I get no support from anybody. It's on my back.
well, if I may, as a commissioner, I think we need to discuss that as the three commissioners.
But see, you have a mining background.
We're not gonna have dialogue.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do have a mining background. If you're saying you would like to have a tourist scenario where people come up and either tour your mine or hand gold or something like that, if you're looking for assistance from the county, and it's gonna, you know, be a profit for the county, for you as well, bring people up here, I'm totally behind that, and I will figure out a way to make that happen. I think we've got 150,000 cars that come up on our road right now, and we've only got 20,000 registered vehicles that we get money from the state for. I'd like to figure out a way to make that work. So I'm all about new scenarios in a situation that will get the money that, I don't want to say we deserve, but you know, these 150,000 cars, they're pounding the crap out of our road, and we're only getting money for 20,000 people. That's going to be a situation that's got to be handled down in Denver, where we get in the face of the Golden Dome and say, hey, look, this has to change, you know. But anything that you're talking about, anybody else here that has a business that wants to resurrect that, make it happen through the land use regulations, we as commissioners, as long as everything falls within those regulations, which is what we have to do, totally willing to look at it. Absolutely.
All right. Anyone else have a question? Al?
I disagree that we're a mining tourist community. I think we're an Airbnb community is what we are. And during COVID, because of all of the Airbnbs that were bought, my property taxes probably went up 30–40% because property values went up, house values went up in this county. How do you feel about the Airbnb situation? And do you think that they should be taxed at a higher rate they are and be under more control? Because ultimately, the commissioners do have control over the other administrations.
Right. So right now, given the number of Airbnbs that are here, if they were all registered, we have about an $800,000 bill that would be coming to us. The challenge is that money has to be used within the confines of that Airbnb. What we could do is we could hire code enforcers, we could hire possibly a law enforcement person that makes sure everybody behaves, right? You know, we have an Airbnb that's good for 6 people. And then you have a frat party of guys that come up and, you know, they play poker and get drunk and ruin it for everybody. They flush the toilet so many times, the sewer system backs up. That's on the owner of the Airbnb and possibly the Airbnb company. We need to be able to, you know, regulate that so that the proper people are responsible for the issues. There's a gentleman in Valley of the Sun. He's got an Airbnb on each side and one behind him. We're not affording him the lifestyle that we said we would by allowing him to move into that subdivision. My wife and I live in Indian Mountain, 3 acres, 5 acres, some 10s and 20 acres. My closest neighbor is 300 yards away. If he's having a party, that's a little different for us than it is for the gentleman in Valley of the Sun. But I think with that $800,000 that has to be applied, must be applied to that system, we can work with that money and try to figure that situation out. Was there another part of the question that I haven't answered?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, I forgot about that part, having to use that money within the system.
And see, that's a problem. That's a problem up here. It would be great if we could apportion that to some roads, you know, different things, but we have to do things the way they want us to do it in Denver, you know? If we separate properties, you have a house and you have, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Maybe you guys can have a sidebar after.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, short-term rentals, yeeks. Let's see, why don't we let Wally get his breath? We'll have another sheriff question. So anyone have a question for sheriff candidates? With some new blood here? Okay, gentleman standing in the back, you haven't asked one yet.
Question for Steve. My family's been here for a long time. I remember the community that I used to grow up in when I was a kid. I had pride in the people that we saw every day. Excuse me. I see a lot of traffic enforcement, which I'm sure is a big tax base for the county. What I don't see is much effort put into dealing with the drug problem that we have up here. And in my eyes, that's a serious issue. I mean, it's around our kids, it's around our community, and you guys spend a lot of time on the side of the road writing tickets. You got massive meth labs sitting out off the Oakland that you drive by every day, and nothing happens there. So I would just like to ask you, what is your plan to restore trust back into your office?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask you the same question I asked the guy yesterday. Have you reported the meth labs?
More than once, man.
Okay, so I'm personally not aware of those reports. So I can't speak to that personally and that particular issue. The part of your question though that has to deal with revenue, we are not an agency that goes out and writes traffic tickets to bring in money. We've made proposals the last couple of years to create traffic enforcement units for that purpose in addition to traffic safety. That's why we're out there writing traffic tickets. But the part that you may not see as you're driving by or that you don't know about is the interdiction work that our deputies are working on out there, specifically on the highways. Now, that's where the drugs are coming in and out of this county, is on the highways. And then they filter out into our communities. So that's where we're working to attack that problem. Something that we started last year is a canine program. We have 2 narcotics detection and patrol dogs here in Park County, something that we haven't had for decades. That is also in effort to address the problem that you're talking about. Can you remind me what the other part of your question was? I'm sorry, I didn't write the whole thing down.
The drugs?
More of the, what is your plan as sheriff to rebuild the trust in the community that I feel is lacking? Because, I've called you guys for a few different issues that involved drug users and problems that I've had on my property, and thefts done by similar individuals. Can't even get called back. So,
Okay.
you got all these plans for as sheriff, why aren't you doing it as under sheriff now?
Okay, and again, I'll say the same thing to you. I was not aware of this, and maybe that's my downfall with your case in particular. Okay,
I'm not the only one.
I don't know
Okay, we're not gonna have dialogue, so.
I will never claim to know everything that's going on in this county. I know a lot because I've grown up here, and like you, I remember it being a different way. But again, our communities have changed, just like our office needs to change and needs to move forward. So I think what needs to be addressed with what you're referring to is having more people within the sheriff's office who have buy-in in our communities.
Thank you for that change, or change. Folks, let's face it. I am not planning to have a reactive sheriff's office. We're going to switch from reactive to proactive. Having drug cases doesn't mean you're just going to do drug interdiction on 285. There's ways you can do that. Having a successful drug seizure operation involves building a confidential informants, taking every complaint and building a case. That's what's entitled to it. If we are putting our faith in canines, you may hit that load, you may not hit the load coming on 285. Usually what happens, I ran the canine program. I can tell you, I-70, we work I-70 every night. 285, people are saying, hey, nothing comes 285. So Denver has become a major distribution hub for drugs and human trafficking. And if you look at it, the drug dealers, human traffickers, they're smart too. They're going to see that I-70, I-25 are worked by the interdiction team, whether it's a state patrol or local jurisdiction. So guess what they're going to utilize? Secondary route. 285 is notorious being a secondary route because it goes all the way down to Mexico. So, with that being said, to address the problem restoring the public trust, you need to be out there. You need to be proactive. I'm not going to wait for people to call me to tell me we have a problem. I've been living in this community. I know what the problems are. We face them every day. I am here not to say that I'm going to wait for the 911 call or a tip. I'm here to say that we're going to be in our neighborhoods and then we're going to get to know our community. Thank you.
30 seconds?
Please. So that's important. Knowing our communities, right? That's important. And when I worked the road here, I think that's something that I did well. And that's something that as the head of this organization could be reinstilled. Is the interdiction on the highway important? Yes, it certainly is. And from someone who's worked a dog, they're an incredible tool. There's no way around it. They can do things that we can't even imagine. And they're only part of the process.
Folks, when I met at the K9 unit, you know what we look for the K9 unit? Training and the seizures. If you don't produce, you don't have a good program. It's pretty simple. You need to build a relationship with our state and federal partners. Most of our tips, they came through the DEA, they came from the State Patrol, and they will give us reason that something is coming through our county. We would develop our own reasonable suspicion to pull that vehicle over, and then we would work the case from there. But again, you have to build that relationship with our state and federal partners. Thank you.
All right, do we have a somebody who hasn't asked a question already, because I got a couple of these repeat offenders.
All right, 10 years ago, Monty Gore was the undersheriff. He was in charge of the jail, right? For a while there, the jail was actually showing a profit because of the immigrants that he had in there. Now, I don't know if that was a federal program, how that all worked. Now, obviously, the jail has been not showing a profit for the last 8, 10, 12 years. I'm not sure how long. And part two of my question is, speaking to a deputy in another county here recently, he told me that 90% of the people he pulled over were illegals. And at some point, if he should turn them over to ICE, that he would lose his job, possibly get prosecuted. So I don't know if this is mandated by the state, if this is county regulation. So I'd like, Steve, can you start with that in both parts of that question?
Sure. The jail. I'm going to start by saying law enforcement should not be a money-making endeavor, any part of it. Now, are there ways that we can bring revenue in to offset some of our costs? Certainly. And that was ramped up in the mid-2000s with Mr. Gore, who you talked about. The expansion of the jail that happened in 2003, 2004, the addition. Yes, the idea was there's all these inmates or detainees out there, ICE would be the detainee part of that, that need a place to stay, and the state and the feds are paying money to house them. So we're going to do that here in Park County. I don't know that that was a great idea. It did work for a short period of time, but these were available. Today, we're in a much different climate, specifically in the state of Colorado. Things have changed so much. Everything that's coming up from the Capitol through legislature, there just aren't the number of inmates that there used to be. So I don't think that the jail should be a money-making endeavor. However, we could bring some revenue in, like I said before, except for the fact that our jail isn't currently open. And I don't know that I have time in the confines of your question here to really get into all the particulars behind that. But we can't get any of the possible money that would be out there because we're not operating. Now, going back to ICE and what that deputy told you, we saw this in Mesa County earlier this year, where a deputy communicated information with ICE, who then contacted a person and took them into custody. The Attorney General of the state of Colorado filed a lawsuit against that deputy. That's something that none of us ever want to have to deal with. I believe he felt like he was doing his job. However, at the state level, it's state law. There are prohibitions on how local law enforcement can now interact with the feds, specifically ICE. And that's where we're at.
When it comes to that deputy in Mesa County, he was working in task force, and now they were sharing information. It's nothing unusual that we share our information with federal partners or state partners. Somehow, ICE got a hold of it. It's open communication between the computers. Was there ill intention there? I don't know, but like Steve said, Attorney General filed a lawsuit against him, and he lost his job. I think that was the ultimate thing. So the state legislature is strictly forbidding any communication with the federal authorities, specifically with ICE. I remember when we used to, 10, 15 years ago, we couldn't confirm identity or whatever. It was a common knowledge to put an ICE hold on somebody. Until they're processed by the ICE agent, they wouldn't be released from the jail. That's not the case anymore. Jail right now, being closed since December, I don't know. It was built originally as a 250-bed facility, and we are housing, what? According to our current sheriff, 12 to 15 deputies. There's no math in it. What we need to focus on it. When I talk about a local community, right? We need to focus on recidivism, okay? We need to stop rearrests. Those people that we are taking to jail on the DUIs or whatever case might be, they're coming out, 2 weeks later you got them in the jail on the same offense. As a taxpayer, trust me, that costs you money. And everything in the law enforcement right now, with the budget cuts and everything else, it's about money. So, is that a shelter arrest in the state of Colorado? No, it's not. You can process somebody for DUI write him summons to court, and you can release him to the sober party. Is that more efficient? In my mind, it is efficient because it cost us, well, it was last year, over $20,000 to feed those inmates, 12 of them. I think for $240,000 a year, that's pretty excessive.
That last part there kind of tied in with exactly what I wanted to say, that summons and release. This ties in with what part of your question, Al, is there's no accountability anymore. So if we summons and release somebody on DUI, okay, that's great. It might save the county some money, but where's the accountability for that person who broke the law? And when you talked about however many percentage of illegal drivers, you talked about being contacted in this other county by this deputy. Well, most of the time they're going to be cited for not having a driver's license because that's about all that state law allows us to do with them anymore unless they have a warrant or something. And that's just a penalty assessment. You can't even arrest on that anymore.
So unfortunate. It's been going on for so many years now.
Yeah.
It really is.
When we go to accountability, I can tell you that law enforcement is doing what we can. Accountability should be placed on a district attorney's office and the courts, judges. Attorney's office is the one that files the charges, and the charges are decided in a court of law. Well, they're not going to court. The deals are done behind closed door. Accountability shouldn't be put on the law enforcement. Be accountable for certain things, but not for the prosecution of the case. Okay, that's why we have attorneys, and that's why we have judges. Thank you.
Okay, who else has a question? All right, I don't think you've asked one before, so.
Me? I got a bunch of questions. Good afternoon, I'm Bill. I'd like to address the firearm statutes in this county. As a legal registered gun owner, how is it that we have to follow the same rules as Boulder, or as downtown Denver? This is not downtown Denver, this is not Boulder. This is a rural community, and firearm is a tool, it's not a weapon, as opposed to what they believe down there. And a lot of times that tool is important at that point. At what point are we going to follow the regulations put forth by beloved Governor Polis? Or are we going to stand up and take care of our own citizens and our way of life?
And are you talking about the new bill 003?
003
Okay.
and
All right.
the ability to enter any firearm sales in the state
Okay,
and request sale records.
okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead, Ahmed, you go first.
You can go first for me.
All right. Controversy about Senate Bill 003. I don't think that any of us should be paying for our constitutional rights, especially the bill that's coming from Denver, which is unfunded bill. There's a case rulings on that on the higher court that says if it's unfunded, it's not good. I can tell you that bill is coming alive August 1st. As a sheriff, it will be my responsibility to make sure that I streamline that process so you can get your eligibility card, which, you know, after 24 years in law enforcement, alright, do I need a training? I worked on almost every weapon system there is out there, not only in law enforcement, but in my past. So you have a law enforcement, you have our military veterans. Last I checked, they all went to the boot camp, and they all qualified on several platforms. So what is the deal with the Senate Bill 003? It will be challenged on a day one. Okay, there's already challenges there, but you can't go to court till it goes in the law, and that's August 1st. Meanwhile, it's our responsibility as a law enforcement, as a top law enforcement official in this county, to provide you that eligibility card. We talked to the CPW yesterday, and I talked to one of the officers, and I said, are you guys teaching those classes? Oh no, it's going to be a third party. Well, who's teaching those classes? Why do we have to go through 4 hours if you own your hunter safety? And if you don't own hunter safety card, you have to go through 8-hour class. Then you have to come to the sheriff's office, submit your fingerprints, and they collect $52 that's gonna be sent to the CPW. Am I saying that our wildlife officers are bad people? No, they're hardworking men here, but they answer to people downtown Denver. In addition to that, they just passed a bill that any law enforcement can go without reasonable suspicion, no probable cause, into any FFL dealer or gun store and ask for the list of people who are purchasing firearms. Well, that's violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. Thank you, guys.
So, I adamantly disagree with this whole thing. And unfortunately, where I get to in trying to explain this, it's probably not going to sound that way. So I want to say, first and foremost, I don't think that I think that everybody who is not a felon or doesn't have some other legal reason why they can't own a firearm should be able to. And there should be no hoops for you to jump through. We shouldn't have to issue concealed carry permits as a sheriff's office. But that's what state law requires us to do. And here is where this whole thing hopefully will make sense to you, right? We're talking about the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, with which us as law enforcement officers, peace officers in the state of Colorado, we take an oath to uphold. However, the term sheriff is never mentioned in the Constitution of the United States. The term sheriff is mentioned within the Constitution of the state of Colorado. So that kind of puts us in a little bit of a conundrum here. Sheriffs are born at the state level in our form of government. And I firmly believe that Senate Bill 3 is going to be found unconstitutional. That's my personal belief. But as your undersheriff, I can't go off of that. In my job, in our role in preparing for this so that people who want to legally purchase firearms that are Park County residents in the state of Colorado after August 1st of this year, we will be ready to help you with that process. Do I agree with the process? I'm going to say that again. No, I do not. Not at all, personally. I think it's a violation of your constitutional rights. However, under state law, these are the things that you're now going to need to do to legally purchase this list of weapons in Colorado. And so, if we're not going to do the best job we can for you as a sheriff's office, then we're punishing you again. And we're not going to do that. We're going to be ready to go on August 1st to help you through this process. Now, a couple of things that were said that were wrong. There are no fingerprints. This is a name-based background check. And we are not issuing these. We are doing our part to verify that you brought us the correct information, and then we're sending it to the state. We're collecting your $52 and sending it to CPW. That's it.
Let's go back to SB 003. We are creating database to purchase a firearm. How about, like Steve said, board sheriff is in the state constitution. Well, guess what? Our supreme law is U.S. Constitution. How about the supremacy clause? If you read through the Constitution, anybody familiar with the supremacy clause? So that's what we need to focus on. This is totally unconstitutional, unfunded. I'm totally against it. And the biggest issue is going to be who's going to prove if your weapon was grandfathered when somebody files a report. Thank you.
That last statement was a very good point.
Okay, sorry.
I get 30 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that's great, right? Is this enforceable? And for us in Park County, we don't have gun stores here, but we do have FFLs. So there may be some enforcement piece to this, but again, under our form of government here, it's not up to a sheriff, an undersheriff, a deputy, a police officer, a police chief to decide what's constitutional and what's not. That's why we have courts in this country. So we have a legislative branch that makes the laws. We have the courts who determine the laws, if they're legal or if they're not. And then we have executive branches that has to enforce the laws. That's where we come in. And regardless of how we feel about it personally, we took an oath and we have to do our job under the law.
Okay, who else has a question? Anyone else in the audience? I mean, we've already had, there's one here and there.
This question, This question is, it's kind of off the whole, what we're talking about,
That's fine.
but that's me. The question is for Ahmet. There was conversation in regard to the open records law, Colorado open records law. There was conversation about that. And kind of what things were found that were not handled or not taken care of with the current office of the sheriff now. So why I'm asking this is when I worked in my police departments in Illinois, there were two of them. One of my job duties was to take care of uniform crime reporting. Illinois, that was in Illinois. So where I'm going with this is that in every state that you have to report, do that IUCR, CUCR, is that a law? Because the conversation was that nothing has been reported with, I mean, is it a state law that you have to report that? Or let me explain.
Is it, let's just ask, do you understand the question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, then we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So, since November 2025, uniform crime reporting is mandated from every police agency in the United States. That includes tribal police too. Why is it important? When you write the grants, you have to prove why you need grants. What are you offsetting? So, uniform crime reporting is not easy, but I can tell you the CBI has streamlined the process where it makes a submission, online submission, as almost nothing. When I started submitting it, I had to go case by case. Now, you can connect CBI to your records management system. That's where your reports are going to. That's where they get approved. And you get your NIBRs, which are the errors. If you worked in the records, you know what that means. So they are fixed, and if you have issues with the NIBRs, state CBI can give you that call and say, hey, you got error here, do you need help? So it's really streamlined right now. It's very important to know what crimes are being committed, how we're going to address those crimes, and how we're going to put a plan together to address that crime. Just like it's important to have your calls for service, it's like creating the criminal statistics. So we used to have a map that would show burglaries and it would give us a hotspots. So guess what my enforcement's going to be? Trespasses, same thing, right? You know, people don't believe this, but usually speeding and traffic accidents are usually connected to criminal trespasses and burglaries. If you have a high frequent area, look at Park County. Do we have enough deputy to be there at any given time? No, we don't. No, we don't. But if you have a certain area that's being hit over and over, when you go to Hartselle, how many of those campers been stolen lately? People just come up and hook up and drive off. There was a big thing, I said. So that's why it's important. And it's a mandate for the entire United States.
Thank you.
So, the NIBRs and the Uniform Crime reporting is easy if your records management system does that. And we purchased a new record management system in 2019. And unfortunately, they have not been able to get this process to work for us. So, some of what you've heard is correct. Are we currently up to date on this reporting as the Park County Sheriff's Office? Yes, we are, and we have been since March of this year. The reason that we don't have this data showing up is because they report it, I believe, on a yearly basis. But the other part of submitting this data is that it has to be error-free. And so As I understand it, and this obviously is not what I do every day, but as I understand it, there's some Colorado laws that don't quite jive with the information that the feds want collected, which is fine. So we have a person that part of what their job is now is to do this. Once we realized, okay, our records management system is not capable of submitting this information automatically, there's not an easy process for that, he is going back in time, as was described, and doing it manually so that we can get in compliance, because yes, we know this is the law and we have been working toward that. So hopefully that answers that part of your question. Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Quick correction on that, they are not yearly stats, they're monthly stats. You have to report those stats every month. I'm glad that our sheriff's office is catching up, especially after we bring to the light, they haven't done it for 5 years. Kudos to them. But this is something that CBI will notify you, and if you're doing your job, you will receive quarterly certificate from CBI saying that you submitted your UCRs and you don't have any errors. Thank you.
Yeah, we realize that this is it is important, and that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Would we like to have a new records management system that made it easier for us and cut down on the man hours? Absolutely we would, but these things are expensive, and unfortunately in our county right now that's not a reality for us. So we're taking what we have, just like we do with a lot of other things, and we're making it work. We're figuring out how to make it work. We had to send somebody to training to get them up to speed on exactly how to do this. And I think it's not just the Park County Sheriff's Office that you don't find statistics on statewide. There are a lot of other agencies also.
Okay. We have a question for County Commissioner.
Can I ask one for both commissioner and assessor?
Sure.
It's hard because you don't have anybody to kind of combat with. So this is for both of you. Why do you think that you're going to be the best for your position? And let's see, what's the other part of this? And what can you do differently than what your opponent is putting out there into the world?
Okay, managing the budget and land use regulation is something that we as commissioners do. Everybody who's up here right now is responsible to react in the same manner when they apply for a mailbox, short-term rental, a 50-room hotel. And that includes the two people that aren't here. And a permit for something. If we are going to be telling you guys how to do it, we've got to do it right. Simply not hearing from the government when we apply for something is not the answer. The answer is we have to take it upon ourselves to go back to the well and say, hey, how come I didn't get my short-term rental? How come I didn't get my permit? And that's not happening. And that's going to be the difference between the people that are up here right now and hopefully the two people that aren't up here right now. And that's a huge issue with me, because that's not happening. Okay? What was the other part of your question? You know, we're responsible.
What are you going to do different? What are you going to do different?
What am I going to do differently? I'm going to listen. I'm going to respond. I'm going to ask you guys for your input. Like I said before, transparency is huge. It's an overused word, right? But it's near and dear to my heart. I'm not going to raise your taxes. I'm not going to de-Bruce Tabor. That's money you have spent that's been overspent that you're due back. My opponent wants to de-Bruce Tabor. That money is yours. It doesn't go to anything that we have going on in the government. A 1% tax increase across the board, that's not me. A mill levy, I don't care where it's going. That's not me. And it's right here, bigger in Dallas, if you want to see it. And I'm not going to do that to you guys, to the constituency, to the citizens of this county. That's what's going to be different. Thank you.
So why I'm the best? Actually, let me go back to what I'm gonna do different, and then I'll come back to why I'm the best. What I'm gonna do differently, and I kind of explained at the very beginning in my speech, just that I'm going to be backing the employees, I'm going to be supporting them, I'm gonna be there when they need help, I'm not gonna give them a task and leave and say, okay, you're on your own, you have to have this done. I'm not gonna chew them out. If they don't get it done, I'm going to treat them with respect, and I'm going to treat you with respect. If you come in and you're frustrated, I want to be there to help with that answer and to be able to do that. I want the staff to be trained like they're required to do. I don't want to overspend the budget in the assessor office by hiring contractors just to keep us in compliance because I decided not to send them to training or require that training. I want people that want to come to work and are happy to come to work. So those are the areas where I believe that I am different. Why I'm the best one for the job along those lines is because I think I can treat people much better. I can be there for you guys in a different way than is happening right now. I'm a realtor, I've been a realtor for 12 years. I did multi-million-dollar budgets for the federal government. I've built 7-Elevens and strip malls. I do not have my ad valorem appraisal license, but I have currently been working on getting to know the tax code for the assessor's office. And I will be working on getting that ad valorem tax appraisal license as soon as it's determined that I have the primary. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna do one more question for the two sheriff candidates, and then we're gonna have closing remarks. So, over here.
My name is Cindy. I'd like to ask you a question about mental health in our community. It's a big issue, and I'd like to know from the sheriffs what your plans are to address the issue of mental health in this community.
Thank you for the question, and I agree with you. Mental health is a huge issue. I'm going to take a little bit different stance here than I think my opponent probably will here. And I'm going to look at the two words that you just said, mental and health. And the part that I want to focus on there is health. So I did not sign up to do this job, any level that I've ever had, to be a clinician or to be someone who provides healthcare services to someone else. If that is what I would have wanted to do, I would have gone into a different field. Now, that said, I realize that a majority of the folks that we in law enforcement encounter on a regular basis are dealing with some sort of either substance abuse issue or mental health concern. Definitely. So we can't totally put it aside. But I don't know that the co-responder type program, I don't know that that's a fit for us here in Park County. And when even before I became the undersheriff, back when I was still a detective, I was part of our mental health alliance within Park County. And I've been a part of that from then until now, so roughly 10 years, I want to say. And the state has been trying to address this issue by throwing money at it. And we've had these companies like Beacon is the one that really comes to mind as kind of a parent company that were promised all of these rural mental health programs. And we've never really seen that develop. We've never seen any benefits from that. So now, however, I will say I'm encouraged by the way that things are starting to change and the current organization that we are working with at the county level for mental health, which is called Paragon. And when I have my 30 seconds, again, I will wrap this up for you.
So, like Steve says, my approach is totally different. Every call we go to has a mental health nexus or substance abuse. So how do we fix that? Steve talked about Paragon. I was fortunate to work in that field. That's why we created a corresponding unit. And the nice thing about a corresponding unit is, freeze all your deputies. You had a dedicated unit that responds to it, and the units consist of plainclothes deputy and a licensed clinician. All right? So when they pull in the front of your house, they're in an unmarked car. They don't have the lights, they don't have sirens, they have interior lights, but nobody knows what's going on. Most people are embarrassed by that. Mental health is an issue. I listened yesterday at a Cattlemen Association meeting. They even have a hotline for the ranchers now where they can address mental health issues. Folks, we're facing some hard time. Our community is facing some hard time. People are not dealing with those issues anymore the way they used to. Right? I can tell you in the last 3 weeks, we had 3 or 4 suicides. They were preventable. Okay, Paragon is not a solution for anything. They got awarded state contract. So they should be responsible for the crisis intervention and responding to that location. How often do they respond here? Just like Summit County, nothing. We need to train our officers in a crisis intervention training. It's also known as a CIT. That's the first line that we need to address. We need people who are able to de-escalate versus escalate situation. Do we need to go in the house when somebody's suicidal? Let's face it, no. We don't need to send our deputies to escalate that situation and, God forbid, get in a shootout. And I will continue my next 30 seconds. Thank you.
So just to kind of wrap up my thoughts here, and I'll talk more about this when I have the opportunity to close. I think in Colorado, really the 2 big things that we're missing is accountability and personal responsibility. And while I recognize that mental health is a real thing, and I realize that substance abuse is a real thing, I think that we have gotten to the point that we're at now because we stopped taking away consequences. And we stopped having places where we, like a mental health hospital at the state level that doesn't take years and years for people to get into.
The most important thing about mental health, don't forget, we as a law enforcement respond to those calls. Usually those people are in a crisis and they have weapons. So we send our deputies. We're going to get in some bad situation here. Not only are we going to deal with internal investigation and officer-involved shooting, now we have to provide mental health for our officer. Taking another human life, it's not easy. I mean, this is what we need to focus on. We need to set our priorities, we need to train our people, and Paragon is not a solution for it. That's why Sheriff's Office needs to have that saying how we respond to those calls. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody. We're going to go through and we will start with Wally and go down, let these guys catch their breath. And we're going to give their 2-minute closing. And then we will be done and you can enjoy your Saturday evening.
You bet. Thanks everybody for showing up. I too was here yesterday at the Cattlemen's Association. I didn't realize what a big deal it is. The wolf situation, we're getting no help from the city and county of Denver, and we have no water. I'm vice president of the Central Colorado Water Conservancy District, and we knew 6 months ago there wasn't going to be any water. We knew the reservoirs were drained, it's not our water. So everybody's tense up here. We all need to relax. We all need to ask these gentlemen, are you okay? They're a huge part of our community. They're the backbone and we need to reach out to them. I'm just going to reiterate no new government, personal responsibility, and no new taxes. As your commissioner, my door is going to be wide open. It's not a part-time job. You know, the hours are, 7 to 5, Monday through Thursday. Now, call me on Friday. I'll be in the office. Shoot me a text. I want to know what you guys need. I'll respond, and I'll tell you why we made the decisions we made as commissioners. I think working with Amy and Jason is going to be awesome. We're very like and kind. We are a conservative group. We're pro this county. And I just would love to have a chance to show you guys what we can do going forward for the next 4 to 8 years. I'm Wally Weld, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you so much for your time.
Cindy, last chance to get out of your comfort zone.
You don't know what my nerves are doing right now, guys. One of the things I didn't touch on is I want all your taxes, I would love to take all your property taxes away. That would be, I would love to be able to do that. And, we, in 2020, the Gallagher Act was taken away. And that's what caused a lot of your taxes to really substantially increase. And I would love to see something, they didn't put anything in place when they took that away. And that's why our taxes have really skyrocketed. And if we can work with the government to get, they were supposed to have something, if we can work to get something in place that gives us some type of cap that doesn't, increase it exponentially. But I also want to make sure that your taxes are fair and accurate. I won't be doing any favoritism, so if you get to know me really well, don't ask me to reduce your taxes.
I can attest to that.
But I want them to be fair and accurate. And if we could, I don't want, there's certain rules that I'm gonna have to apply. I wish I didn't. But as much as I can help you and make sure that your taxes are applied accurately, your prices aren't going up. I know, property values, yes, they went up, but not as much, I don't think, as your taxes are reflecting. I'm a real estate agent. I've got a house on the market right now, and the guy wants X amount of dollars because he thinks it's worth that much, and it isn't. And there's a lot of houses out there that aren't worth what, they're asking. And I think a lot of you are in that situation where your house isn't at that value that they're assessing it at. I don't guarantee that I'm gonna be able to do that in that first year or 2 years. But that's my goal, is to make it extremely accurate. I want you to be able to ask how your taxes are calculated. I don't want you to have to go in to the program that we have right now and have to calculate your taxes. I've done that. I've gone in, got the PIN number, everything else, gone back, tried to figure out my own taxes. That isn't how it's supposed to run. I'm supposed to be able to give you that information. So I look forward to serving you as your new county assessor. I hope you'll vote for me in the June 30th primary, and thank you. My nerves are strong. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy day to spend it with us and listen to what we have to say. Let me put this in perspective. Perception is reality. What we're seeing, it's reality. You heard my arguments and what I'm willing to do for the sheriff's office. We will be shifting from reactive to proactive. There's so many components to law enforcement. I bring the experience from the street level, and as you can tell, executive level, to include administrations. Okay? Police administration is the most annoying thing in the world. Steve may agree or disagree with me, but I know what it entails. So, my job is pretty simple. I am here to provide you with the public safety and protect your constitutional rights. That's what we need to focus on. I want people to call sheriff's office and not to be afraid to report something, whether it's a misconduct by the deputy, whether it's a retaliation. Folks, we live in a new era. We are wired with the cameras. If we have a complaints, we will look into those complaints. And, you know, I'm a firm believer, the cops shouldn't be policing cops. We will extend our internal investigation to the third party. I'm not saying that every cop is bad. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of cops, 98% that I know, are good people, honest people, hardworking people. What we need in Park County, it's restoring that public trust with you guys. This is who we work for. I am here to provide you with a 24/7 coverage. I am here to provide you with transparency and accountability. This is what we need to do. The last thing we need to do is somebody not being able to call us and tell us what's going on. Thank you. I'm Ahmed Susik. Vote for me. Primaries are June 30th. Thank you.
All right, I think many of you have heard me speak before, and normally my pitch to you at this point in the game would be to kind of reiterate my training and experience. Today I'm not going to do that. Today I hope what I've been able to show you is my knowledge of this industry, and I hope that I've been able to show you my knowledge of county government, and I hope that you've been able to see that you don't know what you don't know. And what I mean by that is 8 years ago, I also ran for sheriff then. And I made what I would call cautious campaign promises. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know that there were things that I wouldn't be able to do because I didn't understand how the system worked. So when I say you don't know what you don't know, it's not a knock on anyone because we all are ignorant in certain areas. But the point that I want to go back to that I said before is I'm ready to serve you as your sheriff from day one. Everything from putting gas in the patrol car to getting into the building to building what I see as what we need for the future. And some of the things that I want to focus on is getting our jail back open. Hopefully it won't take that long, but it might. Accountability, character, competency, and integrity with our staff. That will come from the top up. Legislation and lobbying. I've talked a lot to you today about the problems that we now have in Colorado. And I think you need a sheriff here in Park County that is going to go to the Capitol and is capable of lobbying for you, for what we need here, so that we're not as controlled by the Golden Dome down in Denver. And then I talked about a full-time grant writer. So, again, my name is Steve Spodyak, and the 24-hour coverage thing, I just have to say, we've had 24-hour coverage for the better part of the last 3 years, but right now the data didn't support that, so we've gone away from it. But, again, I'm Steve Spodyak. I would appreciate your support. Thank you again for being here. Good night.